Hi, this is Michael Johnson, double Olympic gold medalist, world record holder in the 200, world record holder in the 400, first man to be ranked #1 in the world in the 200 and 400, first man to be world champion in the 200 and 400. I could go on and on and on. I could go on and on and on with this, but we don't have enough camera time. We don't have enough tape. I've always just taken one step at a time, so I never really paid any attention to or put any thought into, where I'm going to really go from here. And of course, everyone wants to go to the next level and make it to being a professional athlete in whatever sport. But for me, I was just at that time, my focus was on beating the guys that I was competing against at the time and trying to be the best collegiate athlete that I could be. And then as long as I did that, then everything else would take care of itself. But I never really paid a lot of attention to what was going to happen next. And I think that with every race, I got better and got more confidence, and the goal of becoming a professional athlete became closer and more real. It's difficult to describe. I mean, because really everyone has a different running style. Mine just happens to be dramatically different from a lot of other people's, but everyone has their own style, and so it's difficult to explain. But it works, and that's the most important thing. And I've been fortunate enough to have a coach who didn't try to change it, or who didn't subscribe to the theory that one guy has to run like every other guy, especially when the guy who's running different is always ahead. It makes sense then to leave well enough alone. And then after all of the criticism, there was so much criticism of my style, even though I was running very fast and setting records. People started to take a closer look at it, and then we found out that it was actually more efficient than the other guys that I was running against. And you have to give my coach, Clyde Hart, a lot of credit for recognizing that early on, instead of a lot of other coaches who would have immediately said, you've got to change because you look different from the other guys, or you can run faster if you run like everyone else. Well, I developed my running style like anyone else does. I mean, it's a natural style, and as I said earlier, everyone runs different, just like everyone walks different, and you don't really practice it or work on walking any certain way. You just walk that way. And I was just lucky and fortunate enough to have a natural style that is so efficient and that makes me fast. And so, but it's nothing that, I can't really say honestly that, I knew that this would be faster and I developed this style and worked on it. I actually just fell into it. I think as far as track and field is concerned, even through, I had a lot of injuries in college, and once I finished with college, then I was virtually injury free for almost 6 years, which is, I was very lucky in that respect. And then I had the illness at the 92 Olympics, and was out of the medals, actually not even making the final at the 92 Olympics, which was, very disappointing. But throughout the years, I was doing things that had never been done in the sport, and still one of the most known track and field athletes without having won an individual gold medal at that time. So I don't think that I really missed out on any notoriety at all because of the things that I was doing. And it really, in that 6 years from 1990 when I finished with college until the 96 Olympics, there were no injuries, and the only unfortunate incident that I had was the illness at the Olympics. And so I was really pretty fortunate as a sprinter to not have some injuries that kept me out of races. So I don't regret anything, and I don't think that I could rightfully sit here and complain about anything that happened to me over those 6 years. I was pretty lucky. Not in an individual sport. This is an individual sport. And so what comes first is the individual events. I mean, you can't even be on the Olympic team basically without getting there in an individual event. So this is what track and field is all about. The relays are, it's fun, and it's kind of like a bonus, more or less. And so, of course, that means something to you. I cherish my gold medal that I got in 92 as a part of the relay. But this is an individual sport, and you make your mark as a individual athlete. And so that's what's most important. Well, of course, I mean, you've said it best. I mean, the Olympics is the event that everyone watches, and that takes you from being a great track and field athlete to, a great athlete, because now you're in a new arena. So, of course, it has my performances in Atlanta in '96, and breaking the world record and winning the unprecedented double was certainly a big boost for my career and notoriety as well. And I think that it will probably be one of the biggest accomplishments of my life, and it has done a lot for my career. Yeah, I think that as far as the races themselves, I mean, there have been races since then, and you take each race and try to learn from it. But those particular races, as far as going through the race, I mean, it's those things become a memory, and you can't really go through the race and analyze it like you can right after the race. But I still do we use those races on tape as training tools to kind of learn how to improve, as well as some of the mistakes that were made to avoid those. And but the 200-meter race is my best race to date, so we use that one a lot as a training tool. I was very happy. I wasn't really shocked because I had never really put any limits on what I could do, and I felt that it was going to take a very fast time to win the race, and I felt like I was ready to run really fast. So I wasn't really shocked, but I was very happy, and I was surprised because although I felt like I was gonna have to run very fast, and I felt like I could run very fast, I didn't expect to run that fast that day. But I was happy and very surprised. It's a great feeling. I think though for me, it's no greater than any other athlete at the Olympics. I think that it's just almost indescribable to try to put it in words what it feels like to accomplish that and win an Olympic gold medal, and to have worked for it and dreamed about it, and then to go in there and actually achieve. It's a tremendous feeling, and it's one that you know you can't really describe, and you can't feel unless you're there. And unless you've been in there and done that kind of work, I guess you don't deserve to feel it. And that's why it's so special, because it takes a lot of work to get there. I never really think about that. I mean, my goal and my focus is to get better and better, and to go to Australia in 2000 and defend both of my titles in the 200 and 400, and and finish my career with a good career, something that I can look back on and not have any regrets, and to have made my mark in the sport, and to have made a lot of history in the sport and done some things that no one has ever done before. Well, certainly. I mean, I'd love to have the world record, and since I have the world record in the 200, I have the world record in the indoor 400, and I've come very close to the world record in the 400 outdoors a few times. Certainly something that I'd like to achieve, and it is the one glaring thing that's still left out there for me to achieve. I don't think that I've changed the way the 400 meters is run. Uh, I think that I am a different type of 400-meter runner. Most 400-meter runners in the past, before I came along, uh, were strength runners and not as much speed runners. They couldn't move down to the 200 meters, with the exception of Tommy Smith back in 66, 67, and 68. He was running 200 and 400, and he was doing very well in both. And he could move down to the 200, and he had that sprinter speed. But most 400-meter runners from that point on, the Lee Evanses and Butch Reynolds and Steve Lewis's and Burt Cameron's, those guys could not move down to the 200 meters. So I'm a different type of 200-meter runner, but I don't think that I've changed the way that it's run, because I don't see that other guys are trying to run the way that I run. I think that they're finding their own strategies and trying to figure out ways to be better for themselves. I think that Jesse Owens is the greatest athlete, to ever participated in this sport, and just has done a lot outside of the sport for us athletes. But as far as competing against Jesse Owens, you know, I don't think that there's an athlete today that all things being equal, has the type of raw, natural ability that Jesse Owens had. I mean, to have broken world records in 5 different events, there's no athlete today that can say that even comes close to that, and that's just tremendous. And I don't think there's an athlete today that's that good. Well, the 100 and 200 are both pure sprint events. The 200 and 400 are different. The 200 is basically a sprint event, a pure sprint event, and it's all about speed and technique. The 400 meters is about speed, endurance, and strategy. I mean, every race has a strategy, even all the way down to the 60 indoors. No matter how short, there's still strategy. But when you get into 400 meters, strategy becomes more important, and strength and endurance becomes more important, whereas the 200 speed is more important. So you're looking at two completely different things in both of these races, whereas 100, 200 is the same thing, speed uh, and, and, and technique. Whereas the 400, I mean, the differences in the two events, the 200 and 400, the 200, you have to go in there aggressive, focusing on speed and technique, and you have to be aggressive. Whereas the 400, you can't be aggressive, except for in certain points. You can't be aggressive the whole race. It's a completely different kind of race. And also, the 400 is an endurance race. It's paced. You can't run 400 meters and sprint it the whole way. So it's a pace type of race. But if you take that over to the 200 and try to pace yourself, everyone's gone. You can't pace yourself in the 200. It is a sprint, pure sprint event. When the gun goes off, you've got to be running. So they're two completely different events in that sense. There are some similarities that you can take from one, or some things that complement the other event. My speed that I use in the 200 complements my 400 and helps me there, and vice versa. The 400 endurance helps me in the 200. Well, I think that what it is, I think that it's a few things. I think that first and foremost is the history. If you've got a history of having great athletes in one area, like 400-meter runners in the States, for example, you have a history of it, then other athletes are going to come along and they're going to follow that history and they're going to build off of that history. Whereas, we have not been particularly well known for distance events. And so the expectation is not as high for today's current American distance runners. The expectation isn't as high because there haven't been a lot of great distance runners in the past. Also, you know, coaching. There are a lot of coaches here who have that knowledge of sprinting and 400-meter runners and hurdlers and that kind of thing because they've trained so many great athletes in the past. And the other thing is the collegiate system. I think we have a great collegiate athletic system here that helps athletes to have that type of support that you need as you come up from high school or as a grade school runner. There's an opportunity to continue after that, and you can go into college and compete against other collegiate athletes, whereas a lot of other countries, they have the club system, but that calls for sponsorship, and that's difficult to get. So I think that because of those reasons, I think that that's a lot of why the U.S. has over and over again and for years produced great sprinters and hurdlers and runners. I think that, as far as the difference between medals and records and what's more important, it's a difficult question to answer. Of course, medals, as you said, that some of the other athletes have stated, those things can't be taken away from you. But also, I don't think that because if you say that gold medals are more important, that diminishes the importance of owning a world record. You want to be able to say that you broke a world record, that you ran faster at one point in time than anyone else had ever done before. And even though someone will come along and break that world record, you can still know that at one point in time, you had run faster than anyone else had ever run before in the history of the world, on record. So, they're both very important, and I think that it's difficult to compare the two. And I think that most athletes understand that, but most people, you get that question a lot from reporters and from media, what's more important? And it's just not as simple as you can, put one there and decide. It's not so simple, but I think that as far as when you look back on your career, you always have that medal, and the difference is you're representing your country when you win an Olympic gold medal. Whereas breaking a world record is, something where you're not representing your country. More so, it's a personal thing and purely a personal thing. Whereas the medal is personal, but you're also representing your country, and you have so many opportunities to break a world record. Every time you get on the track, you've got the opportunity to break a world record. Whereas the Olympics, it only comes along every 4 years, which usually equates to 2, maybe 3 times maximum in an athlete's career. I think I get all the recognition that I deserve in the United States for being the best track and field athlete in the world. I think that if you walk down the street and you ask anyone in America who's the greatest track and field athlete in the world, or who's the most recognized track and field athlete in the world, they're probably going to say Michael Johnson. And I can't ask for much more than that. What else can I ask for? I am a track and field athlete. I'm not an NBA basketball player. NBA basketball is on television every single night. And so far in 1999, I haven't been on television running a race not once because I'm not even in season yet. And when we are in season, you know, so many of the meets are televised, but the majority of them are not televised. And NBA basketball takes place every single game takes place either here or in Canada. And just about every one of my races takes place somewhere in Europe or in Asia or in South Africa or in Australia or somewhere else around the country. This is a global international sport where I compete against athletes from all around the world. And that's what makes the sport so great. Basketball, NBA basketball, NFL football, those kind of things, and the athletes who get a lot more recognition, those are sports that they take place right here, the U.S. sports. So I think that it's an apples and orange comparison to try to compare the notoriety of a track and field athlete in the U.S. to the notoriety of any other U.S.-based sports athlete in the United States. I think that, and I hate to say this, and I hate to admit to it, a lot of people talk about it, but I think that some losses by me has been good for me and it has been good for the sport. Nobody likes to see the same person win over and over and over and over again. And also, if that athlete as well, if you win over and over and over and over again, it starts to become so easy that you start to back off and you start to relax because you start to think that, hey, I am unbeatable. Even on my worst day, I'm beating these guys. Even though the days that I didn't run as well as I could or I made some mistake in my race, I still beat these guys. So then you become complacent and you don't work as hard and you become too relaxed. So I think that, again, I hate to admit to it and say that a loss is good because I hate to lose, but I think that looking back, I think it has been good for me and it has been good for the sport. Um, you know, I never really get caught up in that. I never really know who the threats are, and I don't really pay any attention to who the threats are because I can't do anything about them. All I can do is prepare myself as best I can so that whoever the threat is and whoever the threats are, I'm ready to handle those and I'm ready to handle them. So I never really pay too much attention to, who's running fast today because they may not be running fast tomorrow. And over the past 9 years since I've been doing this and I've been at the top of my game in the 200 and 400, it's been someone new every year. And sometimes it's someone new at the beginning of the season, then it's someone else in the middle and someone else by the end of the season. So it changes so much that I don't really pay too much attention to it. I've never tried to do that. I've never tried to fit into what the public wants to see because I give the public more respect than that. They can see through a fake. And if I go out there and I try to be something that I'm not, they're going to see that. And you have to have that respect for the fans and you have to have that respect for the public. The people that are watching these events and watching me as an athlete, they know, when you're just doing something for the attention or when you're doing something to get a rise out of them. Um, I've learned over the past that what fans like to see and my fans like to see out of me is they like to see me run fast. They like to see me run races and they like to get good performances. And when they turn on a TV and they devote an hour or 2 hours or however long they're going to devote to watching the television, or if they come out and they pay their money to see an event that I'm running in and they come out to see me run, I think that they expect a good show and I want to put that on for them. I want to give them their money's worth. a lot of journalists, as you say, describe me as meticulous and single-minded, and they only see me when I'm on the track and I'm doing my job. And anyone who's good at their job, regardless of whether they're an athlete or whatever, they're usually meticulous and single-minded when they're at work. And that is exactly how I am on the track. And I think that it has been a big part of my success. My coach and I actually work on that, on focusing on only what I have to do within that hour or 2 hours time when I get to the track and warm up and go out there and actually execute. And then after that, I can relax and be myself. And basically, just I like to just have fun and relax and enjoy time with my family and with my friends. I haven't made that decision yet, and certainly, I want to end my career on a good note and as a winner, and I want to go out before my time instead of after my time, and I don't want to be like, other athletes that hopefully we've all learned from in the past who kind of stayed a little too long, and so I don't know, exactly when I'll retire, and it kind of depends on how things go. But right now, my focus is on 2000 and winning the games there and defending my titles, and then I'll decide at that point, how I'll do and what I'll do. But track and field is my current job, and I love it, and I feel very fortunate to have this job. But that's what it is. It's my current job. It's not my life. It's not something that I'm going to have such a difficult time leaving that I'm not going to know when it's time to leave, So, and I think that I've prepared myself well enough for life after track and field that I won't have to stay beyond my time. I would like to just be remembered as someone who came into the sport and did some things that no one had ever done before and opened up some minds to different techniques, different approaches to the events. Before me, it was rare that anyone ran the 200 and 400. Now you see more athletes doing that. Now you see more coaches being open to athletes who have styles that may be different than the other athletes, but also just someone who made some changes in the sport itself. Getting the schedule changed for the '96 games in Atlanta, getting a wild card thrown in for the World Championships. So now that if you're a world champion, you don't have to qualify again. You're in there, and that was something that was done because of me. And I'm proud of being able to make some positive changes in the sport, and that's what I would like to be remembered as.